In Dilley, Texas, 2 protesters were arrested Wednesday as demonstrators rallied outside.
That's unreal. It's like it's carved out of life.
Oh, you can see the whole figure.
What's going on when violent protests break out? Factories burn bright in the night, subsidy money disappears, the weather goes completely off track, and strange images keep showing up in the sky. These aren't just random news bits. They're happening all at once, in many places, and they all leave the same big question about what's coming next. 10 phenomena appear one after another. A child locked behind bars, a sea of fire swallowing an industrial zone, piles of cash stacked in a basement, a standing whirlwind in the middle of an empty field, ancient gold artifacts speaking from history, clouds opening like wings, red dust covering everything, a holy figure in the sky, strange objects following planes, and a demonic face forming in the smoke. None of them stands alone. Do you think this is just coincidence? If your answer is no, please help me by leaving a prayer in the comments below as a way to show your faith and prove that you believe and are listening to these sacred warnings from God. Now, so you don't have to wait long, let's get started right away with 1. A 5-year-old boy held at the ICE detention center in Dilley, Texas. Crowds poured out in front of the detention center in Dilley, Texas, holding up signs and chanting for the release of a 5-year-old child locked behind bars. State police set up barriers, helicopters flew low overhead, and traffic backed up on the road leading to the camp about 70 miles from San Antonio. In the middle of that crowd, you could feel the growing unease as one small story turned into a flashpoint for public anger. According to Fox News, the boy is named Liam Conejo Ramos from Ecuador. He's being held at the South Texas Family Residential Center, along with his dad, Adrian Conejo Arias. The two were picked up in a suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota, right after school let out when the father went to pick up his son. Pictures of little Liam, with his Spider-Man backpack, being led by the hand into a black SUV, spread fast online and became a symbol that made a lot of people unable to stay quiet. Dilley is one of the biggest family detention centers in the country, and human rights groups have criticized it many times over the living conditions for migrant kids. During the protests, police used pepper spray and tear gas to break up the crowd, and at least 2 people got arrested. The family's lawyer says the boy has a fever, shows signs of depression, and is not doing great while locked up. Matthew 18:6 puts it plainly, "But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea." Those words aren't just for moral decoration. They stand as a direct condemnation of any action that harms children. People who support the detention policy say it's about following the law and keeping order, that the border needs tight control. That argument sits right next to the image of a child too young to even understand what illegal immigration means. That contrast is what's splitting public opinion, from those who agree and worry about setting precedents to others who are furious and strongly condemn it. Matthew 25:40 keeps raising the moral question. "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." When that Bible verse gets repeated in the spontaneous prayer gatherings outside the gate, it stops being just comfort and turns into a heavy question about our shared responsibility. On social media, a lot of folks are saying they're scared. If a child can be treated this way, what's the next line that gets crossed? Others call it cruel state machinery, turning kids into political tools. The strong feelings aren't from a lack of info, they're from the info being all too clear. Revelation 21:8 warns about the fate of the cruel, and in this situation, it rings like a reminder bell. With Liam still behind bars, the story isn't over. and how society reacts to that image will show where we stand on this fragile moral line. 2. Terrifying fire destroys swallow factory in Medan, Indonesia. The fire broke out in the factory area in the middle of the night. Loud explosions kept going off one after another, and in no time at all, the whole swallow factory in Medan was swallowed up by flames. The fire shot up through the tin roof. Thick black smoke rolled in and blocked out the sky. And the road on Jalan Colonel Yos Sudarso KM 6.5 turned into total chaos as people panicked and tried to get away from the burning area. The swallow factory is in Tanjung Mulia village, Medan Delhi district. It makes sandals, tires, and rubber hoses, stuff that catches fire really easily. The plant sits right next to homes and close to the main road leading to Belawan port, so the fire quickly became a much bigger danger than just a normal factory accident. As the flames spread fast through the storage areas full of materials, the whole place glowed bright red in the dark. People who were there said the first explosion came from the storage zone. Then the fire roared up and took over the rows of workshops in just a few minutes. Dozens of fire trucks were sent in, but it was tough to get close because of jammed traffic and the extreme heat. Looking at a scene like that, it's easy to see why so many folks just stood there helpless, watching their property and their livelihoods burn right in front of them. From what online news reports say, the fire injured at least 22 people, including 7 who were badly hurt, and the economic damage is estimated in the billions of rupiah. Even though final numbers aren't in yet, officials say this is one of the worst industrial fires in the Medan area in recent years. Roads around the factory were blocked for hours to stop the fire from spreading. Revelation 8-7 puts it plainly. Hail and fire mixed with blood came down on the earth. A third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. When a fire causes destruction on this scale, that Bible verse often comes to mind, not to scare people for no reason, but to make us think about how fragile the things we build really are. Fire safety experts think the fire probably started from an electrical problem or a chemical reaction in the storage areas with rubber and flammable solvents. They also warn that having a factory like this so close to homes raises the chance of a chain reaction disaster, especially when safety checks aren't done regularly. These reports show it's an accident that can be explained technically, but the damage goes way beyond just technical issues. Revelation 9:18 goes on like a serious warning. A third of mankind was killed by these 3 plagues: fire, smoke, and sulfur. Fire, smoke, and destruction aren't just physical things. They're a strong reminder of the limits we humans face when dealing with forces we can't fully control. The fire in Medan was finally brought under control after many hours, but the big question remains. Once the factory lies in ruins and the smoke clears, will the next danger stop here, or will the fire spread to other places where people still think they're safe? 3. Somali child care subsidy fraud in Minneapolis. Stacks of cash found hidden in a basement at the leader's place. Tens of millions of dollars in child care subsidies. A bunch of centers shut down all at once. Cash was discovered stashed in a basement in Minnesota. Hard to believe, right? Minneapolis has the biggest Somali community in the U.S., and it's also home to a lot of daycares that get federal money to care for kids from low-income families. The main focus here is Quality Learning Center and some related places accused of taking advantage of the support program to pull out huge amounts of cash. Federal agencies started investigating after spotting unusual money flowing overseas, plus claims tied to middlemen networks and some influential folks in the community. According to CNN, records show subsidies got paid based on reported care hours, even though many centers are suspected of not really providing matching services. A viral video from an influencer showed empty classrooms and locked doors after the scandal broke, making people question how transparent the whole system is. Prosecutors say they're tracking every transaction and every account to figure out where the money went and who really benefited. 2 Timothy 3:1-2 says, "Know this, that in the last days there will be hard times. People will love themselves, love money, brag, be proud." Lots of folks bring up this Bible passage as a moral wake-up call, not to judge the legal side, but it sure points straight at the motives behind these suspected actions. The online debate split fast into two sides. One side says this proves big, organized corruption that hurts kids and taxpayers directly. The other side pushes back, saying the videos could be misleading because of different hours, strict security rules that keep outsiders out, and it's not fair to paint the whole community with the same brush over a few people. Defense lawyers also stress the idea of innocent until proven guilty, since there's no final ruling yet. 1 Timothy 6:10 puts it plain, "The love of money is a root of all kinds of evil." That verse gets quoted as a moral charge, asking how far things go when personal gain overrides duty. It doesn't replace the courtroom, but it makes society face its conscience. From a warning point of view, this case shows a bigger risk. When humanitarian programs don't have tight enough oversight, they can get twisted. The investigation is still going on. No final legal conclusions yet, but the numbers and money trails are enough to sound the alarm on public discipline and ethics. And there's still one big question without a clear answer. If the money left the US, what was it really for? And who's actually behind those figures? 4. Strange fognados in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. A dry field near Rolling Fork, Mississippi, suddenly got covered in white fog. Right from the ground, the fog stood straight up and twisted, like a giant snake rising up next to the woods. This wasn't a drawing or movie effects. It was filmed right there in real life. Rolling Fork is the place that took a bad hit from an EF4 tornado, leaving clear damage behind. On that same spot, a storm chaser caught video of several spinning fog columns popping up at once across the open field. No thick, dark storm clouds, no rain, just white fog moving like it had a spinning center. The videos show the fog drifting slowly, but the shape stayed really clear. Each band of fog curled upward and held its form for several seconds before it broke apart. It felt strange and hard to figure out. Do you think it's just normal fog or something a lot rarer? Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven and on the earth, along with disasters and strange events." Folks often bring up this Bible verse as a reminder not only about big disasters, but about things that make people pause and wonder. From a science side, this is called a fognado. It forms when thick fog runs into a quick shift in wind direction and speed near the ground, making a weak spinning column. Unlike a regular tornado, a fognado isn't connected to thunderstorms and usually doesn't hurt anything. Weather experts say that after extreme weather passes, damp ground and cold air close to the surface make fog easy to form. A little wind shear can twist that fog into columns. It's uncommon, but it has been seen in some southern states. Matthew 24:7 says, "There will be earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences." This doesn't describe fog or little twisters directly, but it points to weather and nature becoming more unusual, beyond what most people expect. On social media, plenty of people who watched the video were amazed, while others felt it was overhyped from the camera angle. Even so, weather records show fognados are real, just very rare and tough to forecast. The question left hanging is this: when rare things like these start happening more often on ground that's already been torn up by storms, are they just odd events? Or signs that bigger changes are on the way? 5. Discovery of the first ancient gold coin with the portrait of Jesus. A gold coin has just come to light, and what's truly shocking isn't the value of the metal, it's the face engraved on it. On that small surface is a portrait of Jesus, shown solemn and facing straight ahead. Experts say this is the earliest image of him ever put on currency. When you see this find, don't you wonder why his image was placed on something tied to the power and everyday trade of an entire empire? The coin comes from the Byzantine Empire. It was minted during the reign of Emperor Justinian II in the late 7th century in Constantinople. Back then, religion and politics were deeply intertwined, and putting Christ's image on money wasn't a random choice. It marked a bold turning point in how earthly power defined itself. Experts describe the front of the coin as showing Jesus with a long beard, a direct gaze, wearing a crown, and raising his hand in blessing in the classic Byzantine style. On the back is the emperor holding a cross, clearly smaller in size, like a silent statement about who really holds authority. The precious metal was just the background. The message was the real point. Matthew 22:20-21 records the question about the coin and whose image was on it, then says, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." When you put that Bible verse next to this coin, the meaning seems to unlock itself. Earthly rulers can circulate money, but the highest image belongs to someone else. Many historians say this was simply a piece of religious propaganda art from the imperial court. They argue that putting Christ on the coin was meant to strengthen the emperor's legitimacy during unstable times. That view comes from the historical context, surviving records, and the familiar Byzantine artistic style. Revelation 1-7 says, "Look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him." End quote. When people read that verse alongside an image of Christ placed right in the center of a coin, many feel the meaning goes beyond art or politics. It feels like a kind of code, reminding us that ultimate rule isn't limited by any era or border. The very existence of this coin shows that images of Christ weren't just in personal faith or places of worship. He was placed right in the middle of daily life. The coin passed through the hands of soldiers, merchants, and ordinary people, quietly reminding them of a different kingdom not measured by gold. And when an artifact like this turns up right in a time of so much upheaval in the world, the question still hangs there. Is this just an echo from history, or a quiet reminder that another kingdom is drawing closer than we think? 6. A giant cloud with 2 pairs of white wings like guardian angels. Those pictures popped up openly on social media and made a lot of folks pause right in the middle of their usual daily news scroll. Up in a clear, bright sky, a huge cloud appeared, with 2 wide white wings spread out. The edges were so sharp they blocked the sunlight underneath. That moment got captured from different angles, almost like people planned it together, and it spread fast, just a few hours. The cloud had a rare symmetrical shape. The center was thick and bright, while the sides flared out like a bird, spreading its wings wide. Light shining through made the white edges stand out, giving a feeling of covering and protecting everything below. When you look at these pictures, you can really feel a strong sense of comfort, almost like the sky is answering people's worries and fears. This quickly became the main thing everyone was talking about. Some people just stood quietly taking photos. Others shared them with really touching words. A bunch watched the images over and over to make sure their eyes weren't playing tricks. In that moment, we weren't just seeing clouds. We were seeing something that felt bigger than everyday words could explain. Revelation 14-6 says, "I saw another angel flying in midair who had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth." When people put that Bible verse next to the picture of wings appearing in the sky, many felt it was a meaningful coincidence, not something easy to brush off. Reactions were all over the place. Some folks truly believed it was a holy sign, showing up right when the world is full of anxiety, wars, and uncertainty. Others stayed more careful, saying human emotions made the image seem more special than it really was. Still, even the skeptics admitted the shape was unusually clear and rare. Scientists explain it might be pareidolia, when our brains naturally see familiar shapes in clouds because of wind, moisture, and light. Symmetrical patterns can show up sometimes under special weather conditions. That explanation comes from atmospheric physics and how our minds work without anything supernatural. Ezekiel 1-5-8 describes, "In the midst was something like 4 living creatures. Each one had 4 wings." Reading that again, a lot of people feel the wings in the sky seem to echo an ancient description. Not to prove anything, but to remind us. Faith doesn't deny science, and science can't answer every question. This event sits right at the place where those two meet. It doesn't force anyone to believe, but it does make many people stop and think. If it's just a cloud, why did it show up exactly when people need protection the most? And if it's more than just a cloud, are those wings signaling something bigger coming very soon? 7. A red dust cloud hanging in the air like a meteor crash in Brazil. A video spreading from a gas station in Brazil left a lot of people stunned. A huge red dust cloud was just hanging right overhead, thick like a wall of blood, blocking out the sky in the middle of the day. In just a few short minutes, everything looked strange. The light got swallowed up, and it felt like something had just dropped from the sky. It happened in the Teofilo Otoni area of Minas Gerais state. People were filling up their tanks when the sky suddenly changed color. The red dust just sat there in a really odd way, not rolling hard like a sandstorm, not spinning like a tornado, but hanging heavy before it faded away after about 5 minutes. That short time was long enough to plant a deep, hard-to-name unease in people's minds. The red dust covered rooftops, roads, and signs, making everything look like a scene from an end-of-the-world movie. When you see these pictures, your heart rate slows down a bit, like your instincts are telling you the sky just sent some kind of unusual signal. A lot of folks stood still filming, nobody shouting, nobody laughing. Revelation 6:12 says, "I looked when the Lamb opened the 6th seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became like blood." The color match made this Bible verse get shared super fast, like an old warning echoing again. Weather experts say this was probably a haboob, a type of dust storm that forms in hot, dry conditions with strong winds. Red soil, rich in iron oxide, gets lifted into the air, creating that strange color. Scientifically, it's a natural event that's rare but has happened before. Still, even the experts admit the deep red color and how steadily the dust just hung there weren't normal. This was different from regular dust storms that move fast and spread out wide. That's why the discussion keeps growing, going beyond just weather talk. Joel 2:30 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke." End quote. When you put that next to the image of a red dust pillar standing in the middle of town, many feel it's not just a physical thing, but a wake-up call. Some say people are reading too much into a natural event. Others believe the scary part is how these strange sky events keep happening more and more. Both sides exist side by side, but they meet at one point, the feeling that the world isn't running the way it used to. If the sky can turn red in just a few minutes, what happens when it doesn't clear up so fast next time? And if that red dust was only the beginning, what clearer message might the sky send the next time? 8. Jesus appears in the sky over San Salvador de Jujuy, Argentina. The picture showed up early in the morning and surprised a lot of folks when they looked at their screens. In the sky over San Salvador de Jujuy, Argentina, a familiar shape came through the clouds and light, so clear it was hard to ignore. In that moment, you can see why the person who took it just stood there quietly, didn't edit anything, and only managed to capture what appeared right in front of them. A woman named Monica Aramayo said she woke up really early and happened to glance up at the sky and saw it. A figure standing straight, head slightly bowed, arms open wide, surrounded by light like a halo. She snapped it with her phone, and just a few hours later, the image spread all over social media. People compared it to the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. The shape wasn't blurry like regular clouds. The lines stood out clearly against the sky, giving it a real sense of depth. Many said they could see the face and robe, not just some random bright spot. When you look closely, it's hard to deny the sacred feeling this picture brings. People reacted strongly. Some cried when they saw it, some shared it with prayers, some called it comfort in a world full of trouble. There were also doubters who said it's just an optical illusion, but that split in opinions actually made the photo get even more attention. Matthew 24-30 says, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." When folks put that Bible verse next to the picture, many believers feel it's no coincidence. Scientists explain it could be pareidolia, when our brains make familiar shapes out of light and clouds. Sunlight breaking through thick clouds, mixed with moisture and the right angle, can create a human-like form. Physically, that's totally possible. Still, even science can't fully explain why these kinds of images often show up right when society feels unstable, with wars, natural disasters, and moral crises spreading. The emotions people get from it go way beyond a simple light trick. Luke 21:27 says, "Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory." For many, that verse feels like the key to understanding the deeper meaning of what was just captured. Maybe it's only clouds and light, but maybe it's also a gentle reminder that faith is still being called awake in chaotic times. And if the sky has started speaking, what will the next message be like? And how clear will it come? 9. Strange object hovering near a plane from Greece to Switzerland. The commercial flight from Greece to Switzerland was going along just fine until one passenger looked out the window and froze. Up there in the sky, at cruising altitude, a bright colored shape appeared. It stayed pretty still compared to the plane. What shocked a lot of people was the question that popped up right away. What in the world is that thing floating out there? The person who filmed the video said the area all around was completely empty, no other aircraft in sight, no signs of any military exercises. The object kept a steady distance, no smoke trail, and its shape didn't change much over several seconds. Once it was shared online, the clip spread fast and sparked a huge wave of discussion. The footage shows the object as a blurry oval shape, reflecting sunlight, sometimes looking a bit distorted because of the plane's window glass. Its movement didn't look like a bird or a cloud shadow. You can spot right away how unusual it is when you compare it to the normal views you usually see out the window at tens of thousands of feet up. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven, and earthquakes, famines, and pestilences." This Bible passage often comes up when people see unusual things in the sky that go beyond everyday experience. Online, folks quickly split into different opinions. Some believe it's secret flying technology. Others think it's just an optical effect from the light and the viewing angle. A few are sure it's a civilian drone, while some say the video is being misunderstood because of lens magnification. Aviation experts are cautious and point out that light reflecting off the double-layered aircraft window glass can create fake images. Dust particles, ice crystals, or high-altitude exhaust can also get captured by the camera in a confusing way. No official alert ever came from air traffic control. 2 Thessalonians 2-9-11 warns about false signs and wonders that can lead many people astray. When you put those words next to today's debate, quite a few believers feel the really scary part isn't just the phenomenon itself, it's how people react to it and what they choose to believe. Between the curiosity and the skepticism, this event reminds us of one thing: the sky isn't the quiet place it used to be. Whether you explain it with science or with faith, whatever showing up above our heads is leaving us with more questions than answers. And as more similar images keep getting recorded near regular passenger flights, one thing is still wide open. Next time, whatever appears outside that window, will it just be an illusion? Or a sign that people aren't ready to understand yet? 10. Satan's face appears in the wildfire smoke. Craig Calvert. Under the 104-degree heat, farmer Craig Calvert stood in his field, looking toward the burning forest. In the rising column of smoke, he saw a face clearly take shape. Deep eyes, twisted mouth, features like some evil creature. Craig says he doesn't believe in demons, but that moment left him frozen. What would you think if you saw it with your own eyes? The fire spread fast, the wind shifted, and evacuation orders went out for over 100,000 people. Craig took a picture of the moment because he was afraid he'd forget it wrong. When he looked at the photo later, the face was still there, clear, not blurry, not broken up. Do you believe this was just random chance? Or could it be some kind of warning being sent? People usually explain this kind of thing with pareidolia. The brain naturally sees familiar shapes in smoke and fire. That makes sense on paper. But in Craig's photo, the lines are unusually balanced, and it showed up right when the forest was burning the hardest. The feeling the witness had wasn't curiosity, it was real fear. The Bible talks about evil disguising itself. In 2 Corinthians 11:14, it says, "Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light." That verse reminds us, evil doesn't always look rough and ugly. It can show up in ways that fool people or make them brush it off. Some folks around there think that face reflects how much damage these wildfires have caused over the years. History shows the fire seasons keep getting bigger, burning homes, farmland, and leaving whole communities with nothing. When disasters keep coming back stronger, the question isn't, is it real, anymore. It's, why is this happening? Revelation 20:10 spells out the fate of the one who spreads destruction. The devil was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur. That passage draws a clear line between the temporary power of evil and its final, unavoidable end. No matter how you explain the image in the smoke and flames, it still calls to mind that bigger battle. Maybe it's just an optical illusion, but it could also be a reminder that evil doesn't stay quiet when the world is in chaos. Craig isn't looking for attention, he's just telling what he saw. Would you brush it off, or take it as a sign to think more seriously about what's coming ahead? Here are 10 phenomena placed side by side, not to stir up short-lived curiosity, but to show a bigger picture that's slowly coming into focus. When signs in the heavens and on earth, social upheavals, the slide in morals, and images that feel both sacred and dark all appear together, we no longer see just scattered pieces. They're fitting together into one clear message about the time the Bible once spoke of. Jesus warned about this a long time ago. Matthew 24:6-8 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, for all these things must happen, but the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." Those words don't describe one single event, but a long chain of things that keep building, like labor pains signaling a new stage is coming. It's not just nature that's shaking. The hearts of people are changing too. Luke 21:26 puts it plainly. People will faint from terror, anxious about what is coming on the world. The fear we see today isn't only from disasters. It's from feeling lost when right and wrong get flipped upside down and lies are treated as normal. This is the setting where these recent events are taking place. In Revelation, images of light and darkness always go hand in hand. Revelation 13:13 talks about great signs that amaze many and lead them astray. It shows that not every strange thing comes from a good source. We're called to discern carefully, not just chase feelings, but look at everything in the light of God's Word. When these signs come together, the question isn't just where the world is headed anymore, it's where we stand in that picture. Repentance isn't panic, it's turning back to what's right. Being awake isn't fear, It's living responsibly with our faith, with the choices we make each day, and with how we treat one another. If these words touch your heart, feel free to leave a short prayer or a sincere thought in the comments. That kind of companionship lets others know they're not alone on this journey to find meaning and hope. Sharing this content and following the channel is also a way to stay connected and not miss the next messages. Finally, thank you so much to everyone who's listened this far. May the peace of the Lord be with us and with every family in these challenging days. Amen.
Has lit up the early morning sky, caught on camera in Perth and right across WA.
Actually near, meaning end of the world.
What is this?
Oh my God.
What's going on with this world? And why are all these strange signs coming one right after another? When nature keeps breaking what people used to think was normal, the worry about tomorrow doesn't feel so far away anymore. Do you really believe it's all just random? Or is something bigger trying to tell us something? Everywhere you look, strange things that are hard to explain are happening all at once. Animals showing up where they shouldn't, the sky lighting up in weird ways, the ground cracking open, fire falling from the sky, deserts suddenly changing. None of it comes alone. They're lining up like a series of warnings, making people stop and think, will you just ignore it or face it? And even in all this confusion, the story isn't finished yet. There's more waiting ahead. If you have a prayer in your heart toward God, leave one in the comments below, like a quiet statement of faith right now. Amen. Now come along with me as we take a closer look at each of these signs, like pieces coming together to complete a picture called the last days. 1. Millions of silkworms pouring out of the deep forest? A hidden biological disaster? In a thick forest in China, the ground suddenly turned a milky white. It wasn't fog or mushrooms. It was countless tiny creatures crawling over every tree trunk, rock crevice, and path. This wasn't from any farm or controlled breeding area. It showed up right in the middle of wild nature, where that kind of creature shouldn't even be able to survive. Just picture standing there in front of it. You'd feel the shock spreading fast. From the first reports, it was a huge group of silkworms, gathering in thick patches and moving around in a chaotic mass like one big living thing. What confused people was this. There were no mulberry trees nearby, no signs of anyone releasing them, and none of the usual conditions they need to live. These little creatures that depend totally on people suddenly appeared deep in the forest, breaking everything we thought we knew about their life cycle. Bombyx mori, the domestic silkworm, has been tamed by humans for thousands of years. They lost the ability to fly and can hardly survive on their own in the wild. Scientists long believed any wild populations died out ages ago, so seeing such a massive number, living, breeding, and gathering in one spot, made many experts admit, something doesn't add up. Luke 21:11 talks about terrifying signs appearing in the world, and it says clearly, there will be great signs from heaven. The incident was quickly reported to wildlife protection groups, but official answers stayed pretty vague. Some experts suggested maybe a swarm escaped from a nearby farm because of heavy rain or environmental changes. But that idea doesn't hold up well when you consider the distance, the rough terrain, and how short a time silkworms can live outside controlled conditions. Matthew 24:7 speaks of a time when nature gets thrown into disorder, and it says plainly, there will be great earthquakes in various places, and famines and pestilences. When a weak, totally dependent species like this shows up in overwhelming numbers deep in the forest, it's hard not to feel uneasy. Even as science tries to piece the facts together, the big picture still has gaps. This might just be a rare event, or it could be the first signal that the usual order is starting to break down. And if even the most fragile creatures aren't following the old rules anymore, what might be quietly waiting behind the next signs? 2. eerie flashing light, behind the abandoned building, fire from heaven, or a sign from hell. The light didn't explode, didn't drop down, and didn't make any noise. It just quietly showed up behind an abandoned building in California, hanging in the night sky like a glowing slit. For a few short seconds, the sky changed color. The air seemed to freeze, and the only question was, what in the world did we just see? According to the video a family recorded, the light shifted through different shades. Deep red one moment, cold blue the next, then a dull yellowish glow. It didn't move like anything normal, didn't blink like a regular light, and didn't fade out like a flare. It just hung there behind the broken concrete, making the already creepy, deserted place feel even more uneasy and hard to explain. California has seen plenty of reports about strange lights over the years, from tech tests to rare sky events. But what makes this one different is the complete silence and exactly where it appeared. No sirens, no official statement, no sign of anything left behind the next morning. In that moment, all we could do was stare at the screen and feel that slow chill creep up our spines. Luke 21:25 warned about strange signs in the sky, saying clearly, "There will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars." The words don't describe the exact shape or color, but they make it plain that some signs are too big to ignore when they show up in everyday life. As soon as the video spread online, people online split into different opinions fast. Some figured it was a test drone or some high-tech light equipment. Others leaned toward rare atmospheric plasma. A few wondered about secret tests in the area, while plenty of comments took a spiritual turn. No explanation has been confirmed yet, and the quiet from officials just keeps the talk going longer. Revelation 6:12-13 describes huge changes in the sky. The sun became black like sackcloth. The moon became like blood. The stars fell to the earth. Even though that light didn't hurt anyone physically, the picture it left behind felt more like a warning than just something curious. Maybe science will explain it one day, or it might just get forgotten among all the other videos out there. But as long as these lights with no clear source keep appearing in the dark, the question remains. And if the sky is sending odd signals, what will the next one be that we have to face? 3. Strange clouds, hanging in the sky after the big storm in Cordoba, Argentina, a sign of a spiritual storm? After a big storm rolled through Cordoba, the sky changed in just a few minutes. Low-hanging clouds puffed out like heavy bags stuck to the storm layer, staying still longer than usual. The sight really put pressure on people who saw it. Have you ever seen a sky that looked this threatening? This is known as mammatus clouds. They often show up after strong storms on the plains in Argentina. The pouches form when cold air sinks down from the charged clouds, making the cloud base rough, low, and thick. After the hail, thunder, and lightning, the sky in Cordoba turned a grayish purple. Those cloud pouches just hung there, like they were held back. A lot of local folks said it felt like something was watching them from above. Some native traditions see that kind of sight as a challenge for the community. Others think it's a hidden blessing. Either way, most people felt cautious. The sky turned into a strong visual message that made folks stop and think. The Bible talks about similar signs. Joel 2:30-31 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun will turn dark, and the moon will turn to blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." That passage suggests the sky can serve as a reminder, guiding how people see things. From a science view, mammatus clouds have a clear explanation in weather studies. Still, showing up right after a major storm and hitting people with such strong feelings makes the symbolic meaning stand out. Nature shows the physical process, but it also creates an image strong enough to make us question our place before something greater. Luke 21:25 adds, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be anxious and confused by the roaring of the sea and waves." That verse puts sky events in a line of warnings, meant to point us beyond just the weather. Those hanging clouds in Cordoba eventually faded away, but the picture stayed in the minds of everyone who saw them. The sky spoke through its shapes and colors. Once the sign appears, the question left hanging is, when will a deeper storm, one of the Spirit, touch people's lives? 4. A fireball blazing down from the sky. What is the fire from heaven trying to warn us about? The night sky suddenly lit up like a second sun, tearing through the darkness. A huge ball of fire came streaking down, lighting up the whole neighborhood. People panicked, ran out into the streets, and held up their phones to record the moment. It only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough to scare everyone. What would you think if a fireball dropped straight out of the sky right in front of you? According to space tracking systems, this was a big fireball, also called a bolide, spotted as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Before it hit the air, the object could have been tens to hundreds of feet long, moving at extremely high speed. Friction made it burn bright, leaving a long, glowing trail that looked like the night sky was being ripped open. Videos from different areas show the light was so strong it cast long shadows on the ground. A small boom sounded high up, strong enough to make windows rattle a little. Some folks thought it was a supernatural sign. Others just stood there quietly, feeling an unease they'd never had before. In that moment, the sky turned into a stage for everyone's shared fear. Matthew 24-29 once warned, right after those days of suffering, the sun will go dark, the moon will lose its light, stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of heaven will be shaken. This Bible verse puts sky events like this into a bigger picture of major upheaval, tied to a time of deep change. NASA later confirmed the meteor burned up completely high in the air and broke apart before reaching the ground. From a science view, the whole thing is explained by physics and astronomy. Still, what people who saw it felt told a different story, one where fear and questions about meaning go way beyond the numbers and data. Revelation 6:13 describes, "The stars in the sky fell to the earth, like unripe figs shaken loose by a strong wind." That picture made a lot of people think right away of the fireball that just streaked across the night. Those old words suddenly felt very alive when matched up with the bright light we just saw recorded. On social media, the debate got intense fast. One side said it's just a normal natural event in astronomy. The other side saw it as a strong reminder of how fragile human life really is. Comments poured in, mixing doubt, fear, and faith, painting a complicated picture of how people really feel inside. No matter which side you're on, the image of fire falling from heaven still carries a clear warning. It reminds us the sky can change in an instant, and we're always at the mercy of things we can't control. Once that light appeared and then faded away, the question still hangs there. If next time the fire actually hits the ground, how will we face it? 5. Sudden solar eclipse. Golden darkness is covering everything. The beach was full of bright sunshine. Then suddenly everything started to sway for a moment. The soft golden light faded away. The sky went dark like an invisible hand was covering it, and the excited cheers turned into quick, nervous breathing. A strange glowing ring appeared around the blocked sun, enough to make your heart race just watching it. What do we call that moment when day turns to night, right in the middle of a sunny afternoon? The event took place along a stretch of beach right in the path of a rare total solar eclipse. In just a few minutes, the temperature dropped a bit, the colors of everything looked different, and the horizon seemed farther away. The sun's corona sparkled, delicate but so bright, leaving many people standing still, a wave of wonder spreading through the crowd. Matthew 24-29 had already pointed to something like this. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky. When those old words came to mind, that brief darkness felt like it carried a meaning way deeper than just a sky event. The moment passed very fast, but the feeling lingered. Some folks were so touched they teared up. Others stood quietly staring up. Some held the person next to them tight, scared the light might not return. We stood right on that thin edge of emotion, where science and faith touch each other. Luke 21:25 talks about signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, along with people feeling troubled by what they see in nature. Those words turn the eclipse into more than something just listed in an astronomy book. It becomes a reminder that makes you stop and think deeper. Scientists explain it plainly. A total solar eclipse happens when the moon lines up exactly in front of the sun's face, and the corona is the outer layer of gas that only shows up at these rare moments. The paths, speeds, and exact timing were all figured out years ahead. Everything follows the strict rules of physics. But when you put the two views next to each other, there's still a space between them. Science tells us how it happens. Faith asks what it's for. One answers, how does it work? The other asks, why does it matter? And both live together in that moment when the sky changes color. The eclipse reminds us how temporary our everyday light is, and how small we feel compared to the huge order of the universe. That fragile ring of light closed up so quickly, but the sense of hope it left behind hasn't faded. When the light came back and the beach got loud again, the question still hangs there. Was that golden dark moment calling us to look up higher, beyond our usual everyday limits? 6. Flowers blooming in the Atacama Desert, Chile. A miracle in the barren wasteland. In a place that's often called one of the harshest spots on Earth, one big question comes to mind. What woke up life in a land that seemed meant only for sand and rocks? The Atacama, dry for generations, suddenly puts on a whole new look that leaves people speechless. Are we seeing a rare natural event, or is this a timely reminder? After some very rare rains, the kind that might come only once every few years, the cracked ground changes in a surprising way. From sand that looked completely lifeless, waves of white, purple, and yellow spread out like soft woven carpets. The sight feels almost magical, hard to describe, real, yet like something from a dream painting. The Atacama usually gets less than half an inch of rain a year on average, and the heavier rains are often years apart. Deep in the desert, seeds lie dormant for decades, waiting for just the right faint signal to wake up. When everything lines up, life bursts out all at once, creating a scene that has visitors taking pictures non-stop in amazement. Joel 2:23 comes to mind as a hopeful reminder. Be glad then, you children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he has given you the early rain in righteousness. He sends rain to you, the early rain and the latter rain as before. When those words come up, that rare rain seems to carry an extra layer of meaning. The flowers covering the sand feel delicate yet tough at the same time. Sunlight bounces off the fresh colors and makes the desert look surprisingly gentle. Have you ever thought life could come back in a place that seemed so completely empty? Scientists explain it pretty straightforwardly. The seeds are built to handle tough conditions and wait for the right moisture and temperature to sprout. When the rain lasts long enough and the soil holds the water, the whole life cycle happens, just like the textbooks say. From that view, it's all logical and predictable. Still, the way everything blooms together goes way beyond just a successful experiment. In a desert long tied to death and emptiness, seeing life rise up touches something deep inside. On one side, you have nature's rules. On the other, a sense of grace and renewal. Revelation talks many times about dry times and hard trials, then opens the door to hope for something new. So, the desert blooming feels like a reminder that darkness is never the final word. As the flowers slowly fade over time, the question still hangs there. If dry, barren ground can come back to life, are our hearts ready to wake up when the chance comes? 7. A bright fireball star, right in the middle of the day, flying over Perth, Australia. Dawn was just breaking in Perth when the sky suddenly got torn open by a fierce, bright streak. Security cameras caught the moment a glowing green-orange fireball shot straight across the sky at such speed it left people stunned. It happened so fast that many folks only realized what they saw after the light had already vanished. This took place in Western Australia, where observatories regularly track meteor activity. Small objects, about the size of a cricket ball up to a basketball, burn fiercely when they hit the atmosphere because of friction. Perth Observatory, says this area has recorded similar bright streaks many times, but each one still gets the community buzzing. In the video that spread quickly, the fireball shone bright like a bullet from space, leaving a long trail across the early sky. The green mixed with orange kept shifting, giving a feeling that was both beautiful and awe-inspiring. People who saw it shared that the moment left them standing still, and you can really sense how small we humans are compared to the huge universe. Matthew 24-29 comes up again as a familiar warning. Right after those days of trouble, the sun will go dark, the moon will lose its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. As these falling bright streaks get filmed more and more often, a lot of people can't help connecting the sight to this prophecy. Astronomy experts say it was a small meteor or piece of space debris that burned up completely before reaching the ground. To science, this is just a natural process that's been studied well. But the feeling that moment brings goes way beyond a dry explanation. The sky seems to be sending a message that's hard to ignore. Revelation 6:13 gets linked too. The stars in the sky fell to the earth, like figs dropping from a fig tree when a strong wind shakes it. The image of falling stars in the Bible isn't just descriptive. It points to shaking and a wake-up call for mankind. With these fire streaks showing up more and more in the news, that connection feels even clearer. Even though science explains exactly how these fireballs form, that rare moment still carries a sacred feeling for many people. The brilliant light in the early morning stirs up excitement mixed with unease, like a reminder that the sky is not silent. Signs up above are appearing more and more, each one grabbing attention around the world. That fireball bullet passed over Perth in just a few seconds, but its echo lingers in people's thoughts. If the sky keeps speaking like this, what might be waiting the next time? 8. The singing dunes of the Sahara Desert, Morocco. Out in the wide open spaces of Atlantic Sahara in Morocco, a sand dune suddenly starts making a low, rumbling sound that goes on and on, like a deep growl trapped underground. You can hear it from miles away, and it leaves people standing there, quiet and puzzled. When a desert that's usually so silent begins to speak, you can't help wondering what's really moving under all that seemingly lifeless sand. This happens in one of the most famous spots in the world for singing sands, a place ancient traders talked about with a mix of wonder and fear. Back in the 13th century, Marco Polo described the sound as the call of invisible beings out in the wilderness. Even today, tour groups still catch these moments when the dunes vibrate, creating an atmosphere that's both beautiful and a little eerie. As dry sand slides down the steep slope, the whole place turns into one giant musical instrument. The sound comes steady, deep, and thick, lasting several minutes, sometimes like distant drums, sometimes like wind roaring, but held back. If you're standing close, you feel the ground shaking under your feet, and it's hard not to feel like you're hearing some ancient whisper. Isaiah 24:4-5 gives a heavier view. The earth mourns and withers, because its people have broken the laws, changed the rules, and broken the everlasting covenant. When the desert groans like this, a lot of folks think of creation no longer staying quiet about what's happening on the earth. Physicists explain that booming sands show up in about 35 places around the world. It needs dry sand, rough grains, and the right slope, usually around 35 degrees. Research by Bruno Andreotti shows the sand grains vibrate together, making a low-frequency sound from 60 to 100 hertzes that can carry up to 6 miles, or about 10 kilometers. To science, it's just a rare but perfect mix of natural conditions. But Revelation 8-7 puts it in a different light. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, hurled down on the earth. In the Bible, sounds from the earth and from heaven often come with warnings for mankind, when creation itself becomes a witness to human wrongdoing. On social media, some people see the singing sand as a rare and amazing thing, while others feel uneasy and say the desert is speaking up. Debates go back and forth between scientific reason and spiritual instinct, each side with its own points. The physical facts aren't denied, but the feeling that sound gives you is hard to shake off. The rumbling of the sand isn't just a natural event. It's more like a quiet indictment. It reminds us that even the driest, emptiest places can find a voice when the time comes. And once the desert starts speaking, do we still have enough time to really listen before that sound grows louder and stronger? 9. The giant sinkhole called the Gate to Hell in Chergesh, Russia. The ground splits open and swallows everything. The ground in Chergesh, in the Kemerovo region of Siberia, suddenly tore apart, opening up a huge deep hole right in the middle of a neighborhood next to an old iron mine. Gray smoke rolled up from deep down, and houses were left hanging right on the edge of the pit, making the whole scene look terrifying. It felt like nature had turned its back on people for a moment. Chergesh is a town known for years of mining and a popular ski resort, where life used to be pretty calm. All that digging over time weakened the ground underneath, setting the stage for a big collapse like this. When the hole opened, the area got blocked off right away, and folks had to evacuate fast, as fear spread like wildfire. The hole is huge and scary, with steep walls and chunks of rock and dirt falling down. Smoke keeps coming up, making some people think of a fire burning quietly far below. Folks who saw it said it gave them chills to stand there and look at a familiar house now just a few feet from the drop, and you can imagine how it feels when the ground starts pulling away behind you. Revelation 9:1-2 paints an even heavier picture. I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and to the star was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft, and smoke rose from it, like smoke from a great furnace. With the smoke rising from the ground in Chergesh, a lot of people see it as a warning about how deeply humans have dug into the earth. Geologists say this is a direct result of long years of mining that left big, empty spaces underground, which finally caved in. In Russia, similar sinkholes have shown up near old mines before. The science explanation makes sense and helps explain the physical cause of what's happening. Still, Numbers 16:31-33 comes across as a cold reminder. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households and everything that belonged to them. In the Bible, when the ground opens and swallows things, it's a sign of judgment, when creation reacts to human sin and pride. The similar images make a lot of people feel more uneasy than just curious. On social media, some call it an industrial accident, while others straight up call it the gate to hell and share it with real fear in their voices. Two ways of seeing it run side by side. One sticks to the facts, the other sees a spiritual message coming through the crack in the earth. So the sinkhole in Chergesh isn't just a wound in the ground, it's a quiet accusation too. It makes us ask about the limits of digging deep into the earth and into our own conscience. Now that the ground has opened its mouth, will that door stop here, or will it keep getting wider in the days ahead? 10. Black smoke ring hanging in the California sky. Late at night, on a quiet, lightly traveled road in California, a dark circle suddenly appeared right in front of the car, just floating in the air. It didn't explode, it didn't glow, it was just hanging there like someone had placed it in the sky. In that short moment, you might wonder, is this just some physical thing, or is it a sign with a bigger meaning? The smoke ring stayed almost perfectly round and drifted slowly, moving at about the same speed as the car. No column of fire, no bang, no source trailing behind it. The wind didn't tear it apart right away. It lasted long enough for the people in the car to get a good look before it slowly faded and disappeared. What stayed with them wasn't pure fear, but a deep sense of doubt about what they'd just seen. Some researchers say rings like this can come from man-made things, like fireworks tests or big water fire effects at places like Anaheim amusement parks. Those swirling rings can sometimes travel miles and still hold their shape in the air. That explanation sounds reasonable, but it doesn't answer the most important detail. Why was there no matching activity that night? And why did the thing show up alone, right in front of the car? When science stops at guesses, the Bible steps in as a key to understanding. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Those words don't paint one exact picture, but they set a pattern. The sky becomes a place that sends messages and shakes up how people see things. Revelation goes further. Revelation 9:2 says, "Smoke rose from the abyss like the smoke from a huge furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke." Here, the smoke isn't just stuff. It's a sign of a transition time when familiar boundaries get covered over. When you put that next to the dark, hazy ring floating over a lonely road, the similarity is hard for many people to ignore. Maybe it was still just a rare physical reaction, but these strange events keep showing up more often and harder to predict, forming a pattern worth thinking about. Signs in the sky aren't old stories anymore. They're happening now, in modern times, right in front of ordinary people. The smoke ring vanished quickly, but the question it left behind didn't. If it was a reminder, it was aimed straight at staying awake and getting our hearts ready. Among the 10 recorded events, that image stands like a quiet period, making each of us ask, could an invisible door be opening? And do we need to be prepared before we step through? These 10 events we've seen lately don't stand alone like random news clips. When you put them side by side, they form one continuous chain, from strange things happening in the sky and on the earth, right down to this growing unease in people's hearts. Some feel natural, others tie right into modern technology, but they all share the same thing. They come fast and heavy, hard to predict, and they shake that sense of safety we're used to. The whole picture forces us to look beyond the little details. The Bible describes something very similar a long time ago. Matthew 24:38 puts it plainly. "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. But all these things are just the beginning of birth pains." Those words aren't meant to scare us. They're a warning that human history has clear turning points. These 10 recent events put us right in front of the question, where do we stand in that flow? Revelation takes the view even further, out to the sky and signs that are hard to explain. Revelation 6:12-13 says, "The sun became black as sackcloth, the moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth." The language is symbolic, but the message is straight. The normal order will be shaken, and people can't just shrug it off. As more strange things show up in our modern world, that connection gets harder to ignore. In the middle of that big picture, what really matters isn't arguing whether each event is real or not. It's the attitude inside us. We're being called to pause, take a good look at our own lives, and turn our hearts toward the one who holds history in his hands. Prayer isn't a weak response. It's a clear-headed choice to admit we're limited and we need guidance from above. If any of this has touched your thoughts, feel free to leave a short prayer or an honest feeling from your heart in the comments below. Those words aren't just chit-chat. They're a sign we're all searching together for light in these shaky times. To keep this message going beyond one video, you can show your support by liking it, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss what's next. Every small action helps spread the reminder to stay awake and hold on to hope. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to everyone who's listened all the way to this moment. May the Lord give you and your family His peace, keep you safe in every situation, and guide each step in the days ahead. Amen.
$1 million to eliminate a severe plague of locusts in Madagascar. Around half of Madagascar is currently infested, with each swarm made up of
Do you really feel at peace when you look at what's happening right now? Locusts covering the sky, fire rising up out of the sea, rivers turning bright red, land rising from the water, forests shaking, deserts shooting out flames and then bursting with water, strange lights hanging in the air, 10 signs coming, one after another, like a warning that something terrible is coming soon. Do you think this is just a coincidence? The full answer will be revealed ahead. And before we dive deeper into the truth, please leave a prayer in the comments section. Just a way to hold on to your faith, okay? You won't have to wait long now. We'll get started right away with 1. Giant locust swarms swallow Ukraine's sky. The sky over southern Ukraine suddenly disappeared for a few minutes. Daylight got torn apart, not by storm clouds or gunfire smoke, but by millions of insect wings rushing in all at once, so thick they blocked out everything overhead. In that moment, we weren't just watching a farm problem anymore. We were seeing a real warning come to life. In places like Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, and Odessa, where the long conflict has shut down all pest control, the land has been left empty for thousands of acres. The whole ecosystem is badly broken. In that empty space, the migratory locust, Locusta migratoria, has multiplied with no limits, no barriers, no one to stop it. When nature loses its balance, the consequences never take long to show up. People right there describe the swarm as a living black cloud stretching for miles, moving so fast no one could react in time. In just minutes, sunflower fields were eaten down to nothing, trees left bare, the ground covered in insect bodies, and the sound of their wings clashing like engines. What we're seeing isn't small scattered patches, it's a huge uncontrolled wave. Revelation 9:3 recorded something like this long ago. And out of the smoke locusts came down on the earth and were given power like that of scorpions of the earth. The Bible doesn't describe them as ordinary bugs, but as tools in a time of judgment. When that ancient picture shows up in real life again, the uneasy feeling isn't just imagination. Climate and farm experts quickly gave their explanations. Warmer winters from climate change, no pesticide use because of the fighting, abandoned land making perfect breeding spots. All that's true, but it still doesn't feel like the whole story. Because this isn't just happening, it's happening in the exact right place, at the exact right time, and on a scale that leaves people helpless. Revelation 9:7, 10 goes on. The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle, and the sound of their wings was like the roar of chariots. When farmers stand and watch their fields get wiped out in silence, those Bible words don't feel like far-off symbols anymore. They're hitting real life. Joel 2:25 once talked about locusts as a disaster sent, but also as a marker to wake people up. I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. But that promise only comes after turning back to God. Before any restoration, there's always a serious warning time. This isn't simply a bug story. It's a reminder that when war, sin, and destruction go on too long, nature starts speaking for the things people stop listening to. The locust swarms have arrived. And if we keep treating it like just another normal thing, a scarier question waits ahead. What comes next after the sky has been completely covered? 2. A terrifying fire eye in the Gulf of Mexico. Out in the middle of the huge ocean, a ring of fire suddenly appeared. No loud boom to warn anyone, no storm alert, just swirling flames shooting up from the water, burning hard like the sea was ripping itself open. Nobody could figure out what was going on, and that mystery made it scarier than any fire most folks have ever seen. It happened in the Gulf of Mexico, west of the Yucatan Peninsula, a place usually pretty calm and well known for oil and gas work. But this time the fire didn't start on a drilling rig or a boat. It came straight up from deep down in the ocean, spinning like an eye-opening right in the middle of the water. Videos that spread fast online showed flames reaching dozens of feet high, thick black smoke rolling up, and the water boiling hard for hours on end. All around was nothing but empty sea, which made the fire look even stranger and more out of place. In the wide open ocean, with nothing obvious to burn, the fire just kept going, like something hidden below was keeping it alive. We've known for a long time one scary fact. The ocean is the part of the world we understand the least. More than 80% of the seafloor has never been properly explored.